people looked at my Instagram account just with how it's set up and the way I've curated it, they probably wouldn't have any clue that I have any mental illness going on behind the scenes. I'm Jade Moore, I'm 24 years old. I run a cake design business and I've got obsessive compulsive disorder. I think the perception, I guess, that's commonly known would just be like people are really ordered and together and perfectionists and like symmetry and stuff. I mean, I wish I had that because I'd be a lot neater in my life if that's what I had. Looking back, I know I've had anxious traits and obsessive traits. I just didn't have them full time. I had no idea that what I was presenting as symptoms actually meant something. When it all started, it felt almost kind of like an identity crisis. Your brain just becomes really full. It feels like almost a beehive is buzzing around because you can't get the answer you want, so you keep going, and you're exhausted.
So obsessive compulsive disorder is a disorder that involves obsessions, which are intrusive thoughts around fear of something bad happening, such as harm to another person, or fear of contamination, or fear of just not being good enough in some way.
An example of an intrusive thought I was worried about acting on was hurting my mother. I'd be at work by myself, but I would be having these conversations in my head, but what if I get mad, but what if that happens, but what if that leads to me hurting her? And then I could see myself like stabbing her or something. And then it's like, well, if I kill her, then what happens then?
In order to reduce that feared thought, individuals engage in compulsions, which are ritualized behaviors.
I do wash my hands a fair bit. I have a minimum of 3 times. I have to do it in a row these days because I don't trust the soap will clean my hands the first or second time.
It might be that there is a family history of either some fairly extreme anxiety or overt obsessions and compulsions where it played out like a quirky kind of behaviours.
I don't think people realise is that it's so exhausting and so time consuming. My name's Gemma Murdoch. I'm 25 years old. I am a fashion and style blogger from Canberra and I have suffered from obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm sure it was something I've had since I was a child, but it only started coming into play when I was 15, 16. For me it was intrusive thoughts, so I would get just a random crazy thought pop into my head and I would convince myself that that was going to happen. Any car that I would see, I would have to touch the car door 50 times with my left hand and 50 times with my right hand, counting numbers that I saw or colours or counting my steps, making sure that I placed 2 feet in one square on the pavement. I would have to repeat some sort of chant or saying. I honestly felt that if I didn't do that, something bad was going to happen.
It might be that individuals have had distress for years.
I thought I was alone. I didn't tell my friends. What made me seek help was realising that I was so anxious and so exhausted. There was no other option.
In order to deal with the OCD in the long term, we need to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty. Exposure therapy involves both real-life exposure to feared situations and imaginal exposure. Sometimes it might be that in combination with medication.
I haven't done a lot of therapy for OCD because I know like with exposure therapy and stuff it will be quite confronting and it's something I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to do it right now.
Someone with OCD, you get so caught up and worried about this terrible thing happening that the last thing you want is to be thinking about it all the time. But in a way that was the most effective way of treatment.
As someone whose business relies on solely me to complete the work, I for some reason just have a fear I'm going to crumble as a person.
It took me many years to, I guess, experiment with, meditation, exercise, yoga, mindfulness, and work out what's the best routine for me. Getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper is such a relief. Well, I'll always have anxiety, I'll always be an anxious person, and I'll always have OCD tendencies, but I've practiced these strategies long enough now that I know how to nip it in the bud straight away.
Cake decorating really calms me down. When I'm feeling my worst, I can absorb into it and like just kind of zone out. I want to show people that you can pursue your goals and dreams. I don't want people to feel alone. And yeah, I want them to know that they're okay and that they're normal, because we all kind of have a messy backstory.